right. Welcome back to True Crime Loser. How you doing, everybody? That's good. Hope you had a good weekend and a good holiday. I was out of town all weekend, and then my girlfriend was really sick, so I took care of her yesterday, and now I'm kind of feeling a little under the weather, so I hope I can escape it. But today I wanted to talk about, do part 2 of my Chris realizes he's outmatched kind of series, where I'm going to go through the whole interrogation. And the first video was the first night that he was interrogated by the guy FBI agent, and kind of where this video is going to pick up. So they brought him in for that first kind of interrogation, and I think they really didn't want to scare him off, so the FBI guy only turned up the pressure and the heat maybe like twice. And usually when he did turn up the pressure, right as soon as Chris was feeling it, he would kind of just back off and be like, okay, and then they would kind of just talk about whatever dumb shit Chris was rambling on about, and then he'd kind of turn up the pressure just a little bit. And I think my favorite part of that first night was, Chris is doing the normal, like, honestly, like, I would never hurt those kids or that wife ever, like, at all. Like, honestly, like, I'm not that guy. I want them to be safe. And he's just kind of rambling, and then the FBI guy lets him kind of just peter out, and he just looks at him and goes, "Nothing what you've said tonight makes any sense." That's not a place that you want to be as an adult, where another adult is just looking at you square in the eye and honestly saying, nothing that you're saying is making any sense. I mean, I'm sorry to tell you that, but just none of it is. But like I said, just as soon as he would just kind of turn up the pressure, he would just sort of back off. And then that one ends with the FBI agent saying, okay, I want you to come back in tomorrow, and I got a lot more questions to ask you. And he sets it up that, come back in tomorrow. And then Chris is like, can I go pick up my dad at the airport? And he's like, yeah, sure. So they decide around 11 that Chris is going to come back in. And so if you think about it, that drive, if you've never been to Denver, the airport is almost like an hour out of town, the other direction that Chris Watts lives from Denver. So it's probably an hour plus drive. And really that drive was Chris's last, I don't know, like, time to see the sun come up over the mountains, or, the last time he drove a car. He loves driving. That's it, And so I always wonder if on that drive where he's going to pick up his dad, if he was thinking about that, if he was sitting there just being like, this could be it for old Chrissy Watts. This could be my last drive. He wanted to be a race car driver, I think. And so this is probably going to be the last time or maybe he was confident. I don't know. I think that the interrogation with the FBI guy the night before, I think, was really hard. And I think he was, like I said, noticed he was outmatched. But I think he went home that night and said, okay, that was hard, but I got through it. And I'll just stick to my story tomorrow. There's going to be some awkward moments, but I'm just going to hunker down and get through it. And I think he kind of came in to this next day that I'm going to talk about in this video with a little, just being like, all right, I'm just going to do it again. I'm just going to deny, and we'll try to get through it. All right, so he shows up, and this is where this video starts. So he shows up the next day, and we meet Tammy. God, I love Tammy. What a great lady. What a great cop or investigator, whatever she is. But she's the FBI agent that wore the black and white stripes, which you've probably seen comments that I don't think was an accident. But so Chris gets in, and the FBI agent that we kind of see, the Tammy and the other guy, or maybe they're the same guys the night before. I can't really tell. But the two FBI, they're all back in the interrogation room, and this is where this second video starts, the pre-polygraph interview. And I think the interesting thing that happens in this video happens in like the first 3 seconds, which is you get to see just how highly orchestrated and strategized everything that the FBI agents are doing. And it's remarkable. It's like any time that you see someone that has a perfect plan and then they execute it. What I'm talking about is the way that they get Chris in there at 11 in the morning and get him to take the polygraph is just almost a work of art. So the night before, he was like, yeah, you want to come in around 11? We're going to answer just a few questions. And Chris still thinks the polygraph is going to be the next day. And then so he gets in, and you knew that they were always planning the polygraph. Tammy is sitting there. She's the polygrapher, or whatever the word is. The polygraph machine is sitting there. And Chris gets in, and they know that Chris has to pretend to be the worried father, so he has to play that character, and so they just use that against him all day. And they also know, for lack of a better word, he's a wuss. So he's not going to really stand up and be like, you said the polygraph was tomorrow. But what they do is the language they use, so that he's in there, and they're like, hey, the FBI guy's like, hey, so I think we're just going to knock out the polygraph real quick right now. And Chris is like, oh, all right. And Chris can't, playing the worried character that he is, he can't say, oh, you said it was tomorrow. I don't want to do this, because he's playing that character. So they would just be like, oh, well, why don't you want to take it now? So he's like, oh, yeah. And there's like a lot of language like, we'll knock this out, real quick, and then we'll be a team. And Chris is kind of just like mumbling about his phone, being like, I'm getting, hit up by media, and they're like, it's okay, just, put your phone away. It won't take very long. And Chris is like, but, good morning, America. And then it, like, finally, in the nicest way possible, they're like, Chris, turn your fucking phone off. You're not going to need it, buddy. In 8 long, brutal hours after we drag you through the trenches of psychic hell, you're going to be in handcuffs, buddy. So turn off your phone. But they don't say that. They come at it with, all right, buddy, like, Chris, we're going to just bang this out, get over it, and then we're going to be a team. And there's all this soft language, and they, so all of a sudden Chris is just in there like, oh, fuck, here we go. And it's so funny. They keep saying like, yeah, like it might take an hour. And then, he sits down for the polygraph, and she's like, yeah, this maybe takes 2 hours. Meanwhile, 6 hours later, he's just still in there like, no, I did not cause the physical disappearance. So they really, because, they don't want Chris to get a lawyer. They don't want Chris to get too scared and just say, I'm not taking the polygraph. I can't be in here for that long. So they really just ease him into it, and, Chris just gets played like a fiddle. And so here we are. He's sitting with Tammy, the badass polygraph runner, and the ticking clock. That's all he's got, the clock and Tammy. And I had never seen a pre-polygraph interview, or a polygraph for that matter. And it was really interesting to see that pre-polygraph interview, I think, is mostly just to raise the stakes. So if you watch it, a lot of what she is saying is just sort of raising the stakes, so to make Chris's body even react more to lying. So she makes sure to says many times, like, if you had something to do with this, it would just be stupid for you to be sitting in the chair right now. And for someone like Chris that thinks he can just lie and be a psycho and get through life, telling him that, like, no one gets out of this. And if you're sitting in that chair and you'd had something to do with it, you are fucked. And we're both pretending you had nothing to do with it. But if you're sitting in that chair and you had something to do with it, you are completely fucked, buddy. And you can just see Chris's face, just like, yeah, of course. and so they're going on the pre-polygraph interview, which is sort of just another interrogation from Tammy. And, Chris is just lying his ass off as normal. But it's so structured. This whole day is so structured that I don't even really think they care if Chris lies. It's, in their opinion, their thought is, okay, you can lie to us. You could lie to us right now because it really doesn't matter what you're saying now. We're hoping in 8 hours, when you're tired and want to die and are begging for a cell and to stop talking to us, we're hoping that you tell the truth to us then. So just lie now. I'm just going to go. She just has her clipboard with all the questions and she's just listening, and Chris is lying, and you can tell it's not bothering her because I think it's sort of like out in the wild, if a predator brings down like a deer or any type of animal like a deer that's sort of like prey and very fast and run, a lot of times the predator doesn't take down the deer immediately and just, because that deer is at its best. It has it's full strength, and it's at its full speed, and it's at its full strength for fighting for life. And so what a predator will do, it'll just run it for 10 hours. It'll just chase it, not hard, not going to gas itself out, but it just runs it for, 10 miles until the deer is just lays down and basically gives up. And I think it's sort of the same strategy with an interrogation like this. It's, we're not going to really be bothered by your little lies. We're just going to let you keep doing it. And then hopefully in 8 hours, when you just want to die and you're tired and you're hungry and you're at your worst, then that's when we're going to really turn it up and just get you to, I don't know, tell the truth. And I think we all deep down, I think everybody deep down, especially the non-true crime community, I think everybody deep down thinks that they could lie to the police. And I would be able to deny it. If I was in that situation, I could do it. I wouldn't fold. And really, you're not at your best when they're talking to you. It's like stay up all night, stressed about something, when you're tired and just like in the worst mood possible. And then that's the frame of mind that you have to sit there with a professional investigator and just, hammer it out. And I would probably cave instantly. But, all right, let's see what else I got here. Okay, and so, yeah, it's, Tammy's just kind of going down the line of questions in the clipboard, just listening. What I've noticed with all of the interrogations in the world of interrogation, it's on YouTube that we've all watched, is when someone's guilty and like real guilty, where they're looking at serious jail time and they're starting to know that they're screwed, you'll see them start clinging to normalcy. It's fascinating. You'll see him really start clinging to anything normal. So you see this in Chris. It's like when he's lying, you can tell he just wants to talk about something else. But then when they talk about something that he can tell the truth about, just something mundane and stupid about, like, how him and Shanann met or something, then he goes into these long, because it's like, I don't have to lie about this. This is something that I can tell the truth about. So let's cling to this and let's talk about this for as long as possible. And I think you really see this in this interview with Tammy. He's really just trying to seem like the good guy, the concerned father. But it's just impossible. These FBI agents are highly intelligent people, highly trained people. they're so trained on just going with the system. Like I said, like they don't care if you lie on this one because it's the whole system. So you got to make it through the whole system. And I think both of them, I bet all of the FBI and probably even just like the local police that do this as a job, I bet they all test very high in like social type smarts. So, for example, where a huge weakness in Chris's lying story is when he talks about the emotional conversation that he and Shanann had when he said, I want to separate, and then she cried there in bed, and then he went off to work. Because someone that's been in real relationships and has kids and has been married and has a high IQ for like social, human interaction knows that that conversation isn't going to be as short and just like bleh as Chris is describing it. So over and over again, they're like, unpack that conversation. What was actually said? And Chris really can't come up with anything. It's like, oh yeah, Shanann didn't know what to say. And, I just told her and she cried and then that was it. And they're just like, Chris, that doesn't make any sense. You're not going to tell your pregnant wife that, hey, babes, I don't love you anymore. And she's just going to cry a little bit and then you're going to like go to work, So to someone like Tammy, who just understands the way that kind of humans work really well, she just is like, keeps pushing him, like, what are you talking about? And, he's like, and then the final thing that I thought was really interesting about the pre-polygraph interview is Tammy asks Chris how they met. And it really has nothing to do, this kind of goes back to clinging normalcy. It has really nothing to do with the murders or anything, but you can really just see a window into Chris's brain as he describes how they met. So, he starts explaining it, and he starts by saying that his cousin, so Chris's cousin, recommended them for friends on Facebook. And I mean, you gotta feel bad for the cousin because you're just trying to help two people, and she recommended that they meet. Imagine Chris's cousin's wife, recommended. Can you imagine how the wife feels? It's like you recommend two people and he murders it's like, after that, I'm not going to set up anybody ever again. And then so Chris goes on to say, so his cousin's wife, recommended that they were friends on Facebook, and he says their first date was at a movie theater and that he came hilariously underdressed. Like, I guess it was a really nice movie theater where all of like the door guys are in suits and stuff, and he came in camouflage cargo shorts and like skater shoes, and Shanann was all dressed to the nines. And I think that the reason that that's interesting is it kind of goes back to, he always said that he didn't feel like I could be himself. I think that he let Shanann kind of change who he was. There's a lot of like, yeah, when I met Shanann, she was like, your hair is awful and the way you dress is awful. And I'm not blaming on Shanann that she changed him like that, or because Chris is such just like a shell of a person and doesn't know that he's kind of just floating through life, and he doesn't have any of his own kind of convictions of this is the way I dress. And so it's like, Shanann probably was like, dude, like these shorts look terrible. And he's like, oh, okay. But, that starts to build on a person after a while to not have like a personality really, and to always just kind of be at the whim of like where they're at in life. And it's just, it's a nightmare way to live. All right. And then their second date was at a Kid Rock concert. That's a pretty cool second date, Bar with the bar, the bang. My name is Kid, Chris and Shanann are hanging out, and what was weird about so he says their second date was a Kid Rock concert, and then he goes, and this is where I wooed, this is where I really won her over, and I wooed her. And he goes, I really won her over because I forgot my ticket in the car, and I ran the 2 miles back. No, I forgot my ID. Sorry, he goes, I forgot my ID in the car, and so I couldn't get into the concert. And so I ran 2 miles back to the car and got my ID, and then I ran back, and it was like the dead of summer, and I was all sweaty. And then from that moment forward, and he kind of like, after he tells that story, he's like talking to Tam, and he kind of goes like this, as if like, as that would win her over. And Tammy's just kind of looking at him, and it's weird. It's like, it's like, of course you ran back. Like, what did he think that was? Like, such a feat of physical, like, manliness that Shanann just couldn't resist after it's like, you fucking left your ID. Anyone that leaves their ID is going to be like, all right, shit, I'll meet you in there. I got to run back and get it. Or, like, I just don't, that's his big, like, she couldn't resist me after I'm a moron and forgot my ID and then just walked my ass back to the car. I don't know why that would make him just undeniably attractive. It's just like, I ran back to the car. But the way he tells the stories, he's like, I ran back to the car, baby. And, okay, and then after that, wait, hold on. Oh, yeah. And then after that, he tells a story that comes up a bunch of times, that on the way back from that trip, he let Shanann lay in his lap, and she had lupus and had trouble sleeping, so she laid in his lap and was able to get to sleep, and he didn't wake her up for 2.5 hours. And I feel like that in his eyes, because he's so, like I said, he's sort of just like a fucking stoic lizard that's just like, and so I think that in his mind is his example to people. Like, it just comes up. And again, like, it's same with running back to the car for his ID. It's like, that's a nice story, and that's nice that you let her sleep, but I mean, that's kind of what you do. Like, is that like, wow, Chris, you let your girlfriend like lay on your lap when she was sick for 2 hours? Like, I don't know, like, that's great, but I don't think it's like, I think that he thinks that story, when someone hears it, is just going to be like, oh my God. Sorry, I'm going to turn my computer back on for a little light. Oh my God, Chris, you're such an amazing guy. And I don't know, it's just funny to see the stories that he tells, thinking that they're going to be like normal, like, I don't know. Then their third, and then in 2011, he proposed to her on a beach. And that's just the weirdest part. It's like, he proposed to her. He hit her up on Facebook. He was the one, at least I think, that wanted the third kid. So it's just like, what are you doing, Chris? Like, if you don't want this life, it's not like Shanann like forced him to propose, or like he didn't want kids and she wanted kids. It's just like, he got into this. I don't know. It's just tragically sad. I feel so bad for Shanann, because, here she thinks that she's found her partner and this perfect, they had a good life. I know they had financial troubles, and I talk about a lot of like their problems, but really, like, financial problems are bad. But other than that, I mean, they had cool kids, they lived in Colorado. They both had jobs. They were both healthy. And it's just so sad for Shanann and the girls, obviously. And let's see. Yeah, another story that he told where it's like, what are you talking about, Chris? Is that he was talking about how they were trying to have kids, and it wasn't working. And then he was like, and then so we thought we weren't going to, and so I bought a supercharger for my car, and then boom, we had a kid right there. And he's like, to Tammy, he's like, yeah, it's just weird that, like, right when I buy a supercharger, we have a kid. And it's like, what is weird about that? If you guys were trying to have a kid, you know, there's a chance that it's always going to happen. I don't know. I really just don't understand. He tells a story in order to prove like this about himself, but it just always kind of misses. And Tammy's sitting there just being like, okay, like, you know, and she just really rings him out the whole interview. And then, so that's where I'm going to cut off this video. And then the next one in this series will be the actual polygraph. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I really appreciate it. Everybody that's commenting. You know, I'm wrong a lot in these videos because I just get on and I'm just a person that's watching YouTube videos like you and then trying to unpack this. So the stuff that I'm wrong about gets quickly worked out in the comments, which is cool because I can feel like I can just be very loose and try to just put out kind of what I'm thinking. And then when I'm wrong about something, it gets kind of handled in the comments. And so it's like the video with the comments is, it's like we found a little truth, which I think is cool. And so, like I said, thanks for everybody that's supporting me and this channel. I really appreciate it. True Crime Loser, out.